This podcast is authorized and paid for by Friends of Gentner Drummond 2026.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another episode of Bold Ideas with Gentner Drummond. General Drummond, you are dressed a little differently today than you normally are for our podcast, but it's my understanding that you're just getting in from an illegal marijuana bust in Grady County. Tell our listeners about this. What happened today?
It has been an amazing day. I am energized and excited to be part of the Attorney General team. My men and women and I met in southern Grady County this morning at 8 o'clock for a pre-brief. Gathered around was a collaboration of many law enforcement agencies. We had a dozen from Oklahoma Bureau of Narcotics. We had about 15 dedicated deputy sheriffs from Grady County. We had military personnel, we had ICE personnel. It was an amazing gathering of law enforcement and firepower. We descended on this grow facility, 48 vehicles with aerial support provided by Homeland Security and its ICE detachment. We had forward looking with their camera, and so we knew as we approached the property that there were 17 individuals, one of whom was carrying a rifle, 3 attack dogs, 18 buildings spread out over about 7.5 acres. We had teams 1, 2, and 3 that breached the 3 gates simultaneously. We had Grady County on the high ground. We had OBN on the low ground, and the Attorney General's team of about 35 personnel breached the middle, and we immediately disarmed all hostiles and cleared every building, arresting 23 individuals that day, today, and then going through with the appropriate precaution to make sure that we could clear every building, and then made sure that the oxygen level in each building was sufficient so that we could go in, inventory, take samples for prosecutorial purposes, and then eradicate the remaining plants. We stopped counting at 40,000 illegal marijuana plants. If you take that correlated to street value, that's $120 million of black market marijuana that we interdicted today, and we have destroyed it on site. So in addition to the live growing plants, we also took possession of thousands of pounds of processed marijuana that was packaged and ready for delivery out of state. We don't know the destination, either Texas or New York. But it was an amazing exercise of firepower. It was coordinated much like you would see a ballet. I mean, every person had a role. Everything worked as it should have been. And I'm deeply indebted to the Trump administration for providing the helicopter support with the ICE personnel. They gave us forward vision. They had an armed rifleman hanging out the window on a strap that really chilled any adverse effect by the Chinese protectorate inside the grow facility. They knew they were overwhelmed with manpower and surrendered. So it was a successful operation. It took from breaching the gate at 9 o'clock to securing the entire facility by 10 o'clock to inventorying the crops by noon, and then the eradication process began, where we had the cooperation of the Grady County commissioners that provided a burn hole for us, and we destroyed $120 million worth of black market marijuana.
Wow. So how many arrests were made, and how many people will be turned over to ICE for potential deportation?
Right. So 23 Chinese nationals on the property. Interestingly, we didn't capture all 23 at once. 4 ran. We used our ICE personnel to subdue them and then arrest them and bring them back onto the property. Another successfully hid under a bunch of supplies for about 2 hours. We found him. But of the 23 apprehended, 20 were were involved in just the farming operation, but were here illegally, they will be processed for deportation. Some of whom had visas, but they were to be working in a restaurant facility in Flushing, New York. So violation of their visas. So they're being processed. And then 3 will subsequently be indicted, charged, and prosecuted for aggravated production of marijuana and distribution of the same. They
Wow.
will be
So
looking at minimum sentences of 15 years. So sometimes they plea out when they know they're caught with the goods. Sometimes they require us to go to a jury trial with an interpreter. But at the end, these 3 will be prosecuted successfully, put in our prison system, and at the completion of their term of service, they will be deported.
So when you first took office and started with the Organized Crime Task Force, it wasn't the same working with the Biden administration it is now working with the Trump administration. How
No,
much
it was
difference for
yeah, night and day difference. So, I mean, first of all, let me just back up. In January of 2023, I took an oath of office. At that point, we had over 9,000 registered grow facilities in Oklahoma and about 3,000 non-registered that were just absolutely off the grid, black market. Of the total 12,000, we estimated over 10,000, maybe closer to 11,000, to be illegal, and recognizing that exigent need for somebody to own this and lead it. I went to the legislature in March. They granted and authorized and funded an organized crime task force, and that is the genesis of the activity that we have seen in the state of Oklahoma over the last 3 years. If we had a heat map that I showed you, you'd see the 12,000 grow facilities. Over the last 3 years, on average, in collaboration with OBN, OSBI, federal agents, we've closed down over 10,000 illegal marijuana grow facilities, not all as big as today. Today was a big one. 18 structures, all carrying different levels of production of black market marijuana. Very typically, it's a one house operation where we can do that with much reduced manpower. But given the known presence of firearms and the just the volume of the personnel, we came in full and hot. But over the last 3 years, we've been shutting down these illegal grow facilities. The difference between the Trump and the Biden administration years is, for the first 2 years, we would capture the 17 or 20 in a location, and 3 that we could prosecute as owners and managers and leadership. The rest would just be here illegally. We'd contact Homeland Security, and they would say, hey, our policy is catch and release. Please invite them to show up in Kansas City or Dallas to process in the next 2 weeks. We would see the same identical individuals the next week, the next week, the next week. Now, under the Trump administration, we pre-coordinate with ICE. They are embedded in our briefing at 8 a.m. this morning. They got airborne. They were embedded in my task force with radio communication to the helicopter and radio communication with the paddy wagon that would follow. And it's night and day. Now, when we catch them, they aren't released. They are
That's great.
prosecuted or they are deported. And we're breaking the back on organized crime.
Amazing. So, oftentimes, especially working in politics, we hear so much about waste, fraud, and abuse, and it's out there, and every bit of waste, fraud, and abuse needs to be eradicated. But I also think we should take some time to celebrate. It makes me a proud taxpayer in the state of Oklahoma when we see the best and the brightest that are working in your office to take down this scourge of illegal marijuana and these criminals and get them out of our state and out of our country. Tell us about some of the, without mentioning their names or anything, but just the profile of some of these men and women that you're working with on a daily basis to make Oklahoma safer.
No, I mean, so it's exciting. We came in, the Attorney General's office when I took office was kind of a place where agents went to retire. We implemented a physical fitness test and a standard comparable to my experience as a military officer. We changed the leadership. I brought in a 22-year FBI veteran to lead the agency. We recruited a 20-year veteran from ATF to lead the efforts in the organized crime task force. We've got former members of, CIA, Homeland Security, ICE, you name the agency, we've got them now working in the Attorney General office. We have U.S. Marshals that are embedded in our task force. Obviously, we collaborate directly with Oklahoma Bureau of Narcotics, who is a great partner in this. You saw that today with the footage that we can share in the future, where we have OBN and OAG working hand in hand to break the back of organized crime. It's exciting. We have seasoned officers, we have young officers, we have men, we have women, we have an integration of forces that is just exciting to watch. And the enthusiasm in the pre-brief, I gave the last comments before we got in the caravan and headed out, but the excitement and energy in the room of those 78 professionals was just incredible and inspiring.
It's incredible. I hear many politicians talk about doing things like this and maybe even failing to acknowledge the work that you've done since taking office in 2023. But how much work is there left to do? You have this time left in office. How many more illegal grows do you really think are out there that your office can help shut down?
Right. So we are presently working on a coordinated task force that will take out 40 illegal marijuana grow facilities simultaneously across 3 states. We're leading that effort, but it is bringing in manpower from New Mexico and Texas to help us and assist us. And obviously, our federal agents are coming in droves for that. I don't really want to go further than that because I don't want to
Sure.
tip off where it is, but it's significant. So, we picked the low lying fruit the first year. And we learned a lot of things. We were maybe lucky to some extent because nobody was injured. But these grow facilities are hazardous. They are not, a legal grow facility is, you know, inspected by the fire marshal and regulated and complying with all of our laws. The illegal grow facilities don't. And so what we have found is one, not just marijuana, but the presence of fentanyl. So they are either sometimes producing fentanyl and certainly using the grow facilities distribution network to distribute the fentanyl. So that's a whole game changer. Now every one of my agents walk in and we've got neoprene gloves on so that nothing can penetrate our fingers as we're touching things. We've had agents go down because of fentanyl overdoses in the past. So we've learned that. Two, we now bring in the military that uses their carbon monoxide measuring devices. They go through every building once we secured them to illustrate whether or not we need to cut holes in the building so that our men and women are not asphyxiated while we're eradicating the plants. And then the presence of illegal Chinese pesticides at every grow facility. These things are not permitted in the United States of America. And yet they're being smuggled in and applied to the drug, to the marijuana, to give it this extraordinary boost that is terrible for human consumption. But they don't care. They're not consuming it. They're selling it to Oklahomans and other members of the United States in the black market. So we have learned 1,000 lessons, and now they're much more sophisticated and much larger. But the network around the state that we've built with partners and partner agencies is phenomenal. It is exciting to see the enthusiasm of the Grady County deputy sheriffs today. They've known the presence of this grow. They've worked with my team on smaller grows, but they knew that this was so big that it took this organizational skills of the Attorney General's office to pull it off. And we're there to coordinate, collaborate, and eradicate.
Can you talk briefly on the living conditions that some of these people are they're coming here illegally to work, to send money back to China or to Mexico. They're breaking the law being here, but they're also, it's just I've heard from you, it's a terrible situation that they're even on these properties sometimes.
Right. No grow is the same. Today's grow, there were not locks on the outside of their residential area, but they were living in squalor. You would not even want to step foot into the living facilities. So there's no hygiene, no consideration for the workers. They are here simply at the requirement of the Chinese Communist Party to generate profit for CCP and to injure the United States of America. We have been on other grows where the workers are actually confined at night. They're put in a room and there's a bolt on the outside, and then they're released in the morning to be fed and then to work. So it's today's was on the high end, but nothing you would even want to step foot in. And then what they're feeding them in the residential area today, I saw a large container with about 14 turtles, some of them water turtles, some of them land turtles. But that was going to be tonight's dinner.
Unbelievable. Wow.
All those
Well,
turtles
I
and
just,
feed them.
look, I think back to 2022 when I was working on your race for Attorney General, and there were people sometimes forget the gunfights that were happening between farmers and the syndicates and the criminals that were just flooding our state, not just because of the poorly written law on marijuana, but also because Joe Biden was president and letting illegal aliens flood across our borders. So thank goodness for President Trump in the White House, and thank goodness that you and your team are doing this work. So thanks for sharing this today. I think it's fascinating, and I know that you have more work to do, but it's pretty incredible what you and your team have been able to accomplish.
It's very exciting, and it's the highest honor of my life, highest calling to get to lead this agency. I'm so proud of the 87 agents that work under my control and the attorneys that prepare these and then prosecute and incarcerate the bad actors. It takes a team, and it takes a team of Oklahomans. It's not just the Attorney General's office, collaboration with these other agencies and our federal partners. And I will tell you, with the Trump administration, we could not get a better partner than Donald J. Trump and his men and women in the federal agencies. They are enthusiastic and inspiring to work with.
That's amazing. Well, just like you need a team, we need a team to get you elected governor. So please visit drummondok.com, sign up to be a volunteer, get involved. Every vote does count, every door knocked counts, and we need your support. And General Drummond, thanks for your time. And you can follow us on social media as well, anywhere where you get your social media feed. So have a great day, sir. Thank you so much.
Great. Thank you, Matt.
This podcast is authorized and paid for by Friends of Gentner Drummond 2026.